my organization, CMR, is the organization that federates all associations of municipalities and regions. And we've been following the discussions on climate change for quite a while. Already in 92, in Rio, you remember the slogan that was built up at the time. It was think global and act local. And from that act local, municipalities and regions and their representative organizations have been following all the COPs, all the meetings at UN level to bring the local voice and express the wish that we can act. And we can act seriously on climate change, tackling many issues linked to energy saving, efficiency, building development policies that are sustainable and carbon free. And what is amazing this time in the COP is that I've been following the COPs for 10 years. And 10 years ago, when we wanted to address the situation of local governments, we were looked at strangers and not part of the game. And this COP, what is very different, is that cities and local governments are really at heart of the solutions. Everybody now at UN level and at state level recognize that not only cities are the place where the most emissions are produced, but that's where the solutions can be found, and that's where we can build up policies that will answer the challenge of climate change, both in adaptation and mitigation, of course.
Oh, when you come out to society, people.
Yes.
How do you feel that climate change COP is dealing with that, especially in the agenda today here on climate and gender?
Yes, well, it's very interesting because, of course, you cannot build up policies at local level if you don't get everyone, all the citizens, engaged in those policies. And the question of gender is really crucial. I was Sunday morning in the City Hall of Paris, where we had a women conference, a World Women Conference on gender and development. And what is really striking is, first of all, that women are very engaged in development policies, but also what was really striking from the debate is that women are suffering the most from climate disasters. It's them. In Africa, for example, many times the women are going to get the water, for example, or are responsible for sanitation and good water, and sometimes they work for hours just to bring the water. And so women groups work with us, local authorities, to develop policies that are enabling them to really engage their families, first of all, and also allow them to have more time for themselves to create means of development. And I have another example, that's another continent, in Sweden. The Swedish government has made very meaningful videos, very interesting, on gender and the way we build the cities. And in Sweden, it snows a lot. And I remember one part of the video was they were taking the snow out of the roads so that the cars could go, and the snow was put on the sidewalks. And of course, women, they were saying, well, we walk to bring our children to school. We walk with the tram for the babies. Tram? Okay, sorry. and because men are building most of the time the policies, they don't think of that.
So I'm Patrizio Fiorilli. I'm the director for Platforma. And Platforma is a beautiful thing, fantastic invention. It's the network of European towns and regions who are active in development issues.
How do you work with these organizations?
Well, actually, Platforma was born from within CEMR. So I would argue that Frédéric is my professional father, so to speak. We actually share the same headquarters. We try and have staff from both associations working together, and we do this really well. And actually, you can see this today, that we are here. And they support us, and we support them. And the aim is, of course, to put on the map this concept of what we call decentralized cooperation.
So in the scenario of climate change, what is your work?
Well, Give me just maybe 20 seconds to explain what this decentralized cooperation is. This is the beauty of it. We all know about development cooperation. It's been going on for a long time. People are in favor, others a bit less. And decentralized cooperation, I would argue, is a new concept. It's a fact, I would call it micro-cooperation, where any town in Europe would find a partner, another town in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, and they work one-on-one, just like a couple. Nobody else is involved in this. And the advantage of this is that, in a way, you speak the same language. When you have a local civil servant or local politician involved in any issue dealing with a partner town who does the same thing, they know what they're talking about. It's really direct. And what we see in decentralized cooperation is that in many, many cases, whatever the topic of it, it has a direct link with climate change. It can be about water treatment, it can be about saving energy, it can be about insulating public buildings, it's about education. Frédéric was also mentioning health, and all those issues actually help tackle the climate. I always use the metaphor of these little projects, each of them being a little grain of sand, and when you put them together, you have this beautiful beach that we call future. At the end of the day, the aim is that if every single town in the world were connected with a partner in the south or dealing on those issues, I would say we would have solved the problem.
About gender, do you have programs on gender?
On gender,
yeah?
absolutely. It would be a mistake to consider decentralized cooperation as a purely technical aspect. I would argue it's probably just 50% or so, my figures. On gender equality, we've always been fighting really hard on this. Gender equality, other issues like local government and democracy, because in a way we're talking about the same issues here. And exactly as Frédéric was saying earlier, we find that all those issues have a gender dimension. So decentralized cooperation and platformas work is very much about technical issues backed by human aspects like gender equality or local government, and also a crucial ingredient that we concoct around the world is empowerment of people. This is really not a concept that is limited to civil servants or elected people. I moderated a round table in the framework of COP21 the other day, where my guests were people from towns and regions from around the world. Each of them was saying that when there is a partnership, North-South partnership, we find that they try and broaden this to take people on board, because otherwise, I wouldn't say it's a recipe for failure, but you increase your chances of success if you involve as many stakeholders as possible.
What would you like to see come out of COP21 that would support your agenda?
This is when Frédéric's and my agenda really are on a par. The moment we see, and Frédéric was stressing this, that we've already seen that these days it would be unthinkable not to involve local or regional governments in COP21. This is one step further that we've achieved. But COP21 is not an event on its own, in a vacuum. Frédéric was saying he's been following this for more than 10 years. I would like to see COP21 like just one more link in a long chain. It's been going on for a long time. And in future, the moment local governments are actually perceived as crucial partners by national governments and international organizations, then really we have made one step further, massive step further in tackling climate change. Maybe just one last word for your viewers. About 3 days ago, I think, at the Hôtel de Ville in Paris, Robert Redford was invited to speak there. And he said quite a few interesting things, but one of them actually, I didn't like what he said. He was asked, how come you're so involved in tackling climate change and you're here at this local and regional summit? And he said, well, I'm here today talking to mayors and others because I've been active on this issue for 40 years, and I'm really fed up to see that in 40 years nothing has been achieved. Now, my guess is that Robert Redford has never heard of decentralized cooperation. because those partnerships have been going on for dozens of years, most of them on climate issue, and things have been achieved actually. So Robert, if you hear this, you were wrong.